Hello and welcome to ILTV's Israel Daily. I'm Aaron Porras. And coming up in today's newscast, Israel continuing with the annual Holocaust Remembrance Day commemorations. Meanwhile, among the survivors providing testimony this year, keynote ceremony speaker and guest today on the program, Dr. Moshe Meron. And finally, with eyes towards the future, the annual March of the Living in Poland receiving some very special new participants. Today, marking Israeli Holocaust Memorial Day, citizens waking up to a somber moment of silence after a full evening of survivor testimonies and events. As with every year, Israel coming to a standstill for 2 minutes Thursday morning in honor of the well over 6 million Jews and millions more non-Jewish victims of the Nazis and the Holocaust. And this in addition to the many official and unofficial ceremonies across the country in which survivor testimonies were relayed to the younger generations, including on Wednesday night, the Knesset and the Yad Vashem Holocaust Memorial hosting an hour-and-a-half-long event, including testimony, musical guests, speeches, and for the first time ever, senior German officials from the Bundestag. President of the Bundestag, or Germany's national parliament, Barbel Bas, arriving Wednesday afternoon and meeting face-to-face with survivors, touring the Yad Vashem Memorial Museum, and then later participating firsthand in the Knesset ceremony. Bas saying she's grateful for the emotional and meaningful invitation, adding that it's with deep grief and shame on behalf of Germany's past crimes that we must never forget what happened, and that she's thankful that many victims can at least now be given a face and a name. Of course, while Israel and Germany are among those who officially recognize the Holocaust and its unparalleled history, not everyone is on the same page. In fact, it's become more and more normalized to compare many other difficult events to the Holocaust. Israeli Prime Minister Bennett therefore reiterating the point at Wednesday night's ceremony with a single page of testimony provided by Yad Vashem. Bennett using the testimony and explaining that, quote, "Unfortunately, history is full of cruel wars, brutal murders, and also genocide. But it is usually a means to some goal, some sort of expectation, military, political, economic, religious, whereas the case of the extermination of the Jews is different."
שם המשפחה של הנרצחת, רייך. שם פרטי, חסר. מקום הלידה, אושוויץ. מקום המוות, אושוויץ. תיאור נסיבות המוות, נלקחה מידי אימה באושוויץ. פרטי ממלא הדף, האימא איירין רייך. גיל בעת המוות, חצי שעה.
That said, far from looking for cheap points, the Prime Minister and other officials repeating the lesson that Israelis and Jews around the world should take away from these stories.
הציווי הגורלי שלנו הוא לעמוד לגורלנו, לסמוך רק על עצמנו, להיות חזקים ואף פעם לא להתנצל על קיומנו או על הצלחתנו.
Now, among those honored to speak at the official Holocaust Remembrance ceremony Wednesday night is my next guest, Holocaust survivor and Dr. Moshe Meron. But before our interview, here's a clip from the event.
שרדנו. מצאנו עצמנו בסוף המלחמה גלמודים חסרי כל, זרים השתלטו על ביתנו, לא נותר לנו דבר לחפש בהונגריה. שוב ארזנו מזוודות והצטרפנו אל זרם השורדים חוצה גבולות אירופה בדרכה לארץ ישראל. באביב 49 ראיתי סוף סוף את אורות חיפה מהים וידעתי שהגעתי הביתה.
Dr. Moshe Meron, thank you so much for joining me. So, what does it mean for you to have spoken at this year's ceremony, especially with your incredible history of escaping Hungary and Europe?
Well, it was a little unexpected
I never felt myself as a typical representative of the Holocaust victims, because the Jews of Budapest were the last, really, they were the last living Jews in Europe. Okay, our leader Horthy kept us as a sort of insurance. What will happen after the war? So he's going to keep us alive. The problem was that he decided to get out of the war, to give up, and then the German just replaced him with the leader of the fascists, of the local fascists. So our plight was a real plight, and I was saved just by the courage of my mother, but it was a very, very short plight. And while I'm listening to all those people who went, from Auschwitz to Bergen-Belsen and so on, and I'm just feeling myself very, very humble, because I was 9 years old, and the whole thing took something like 3 months. Mm. And thinking about the people who suffered for 2, 4, 3 years, I must be very, very humble when I'm trying to speak for the Holocaust survivors.
All right, well, you came to Israel at about 14 years old, and upon your arrival, you worked in growing cotton, after which you specialized in agricultural science and research. Was this like a fateful path that you fell into, a subject you enjoy, or was there maybe something symbolic about building the land of Israel itself?
When you come to a country, to a very young country, a poor country, where the only street light in Tel Aviv was in the middle of the nowhere, it was just blinking and nothing was there, then you are part of building the country, So it's nothing special about it. It's like, there is a song from those days that you came to the country to build the country and build yourself. Okay, something like this. And that's the way it goes. I came here as a student, age 14. So I just went to school and everything. And then I went to a kibbutz on the Syrian border. And we did something to defend this country. And also we were just working and learning and so on. It's very, very, very simple, very straightforward.
Well, you later became an academic researcher in Israel, and in education especially, the BDS anti-Israel movement is constantly growing and making headlines. When you hear rhetoric from the BDS movement, including academic boycotts, what does it make you think? And what would you say to young Jews today who are facing anti-Semitism in their communities?
I came from Hungary, okay? I was born in Budapest, and I know very well what is anti-Semitism. And you can't do too much about it because they hate us, and that's it. So we can stay with them, or we can come to our country. That's what I did. And you have two ways to do it: to get to hide or to fight. Okay, you can hide yourself and say that's what I met in the last years. I met a few Hungarian Jews who are hiding the Jewry. A very, 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 very famous case was the head of the anti-Semitic movement in Hungary. They found out that his mother was hiding was going with long sleeve, because she had a number from Auschwitz. That's a real story. So you can hide or you can fight. You can run away from your religion, from your You can try, to assimilate and forget about Jewry, but they won't let you. They won't let you. I spent 3 years in Fresno, California, and everything was okay, but some undercurrents were very, very clear, and there were only 150 Jews in this small town, okay? But they all knew that they all felt anti-Semitism, and no one was really openly anti-Semitic. This was always hidden, and they always felt it. So you can live with it. You can't run away from this, because they won't let you run away.
Dr. Meron, thank you so much for being with us. Now, in keeping with the national tradition, we wanted to present just some of the Holocaust survivor testimony that Israelis have been hearing this year for Remembrance Day. ILTV's Asaf Nissan with more.
From dozens of events across the country, Holocaust survivors retelling their harrowing stories, and all with one unified message: to remember the unbearable costs of failing to rise against hate. In Jerusalem, for one, the torchbearers at this year's event representing those who survived the war. These are some of their stories.
באוגוסט 1942 חוסל הגטו של זוויסקבולה. הובלנו לבית העלמין היהודי, ושם הייתה הסלקציה הראשונה. הרוב הועבר לצד השני, והגופות הועברו לגיא ההריגה בשם חלבנו, והועלו באש. בין הרוב הזה היו הסבים שלי, אבי, אחי, ומי שנותר בצד הזה לגטו לודג' היו אמי ואני.
First, my father was separated. My youngest sister and I were sent ahead and were taken to Lager C. We were asked to take off all our clothes with all the German men around. And then they cut off our hair and from everywhere, from our body. My mother and my sister and 2 grandchildren, they were sent to the gas chamber. It's hard for me to say. Do I have to?
אני לא ידעתי אם אני אשרוד אפילו אחרי המלחמה, כי המצב הקליני שלי היה על הפנים, אור בעצמות. שקלתי בגיל 13.5, 30 קילו. אמרתי לו, אכפת לי אם אני אמות רק כאדם חופשי.
Meanwhile, the story taking on particular significance, especially as Holocaust denial, anti-Semitism, and general hate crimes rising to levels not seen since the years before the Holocaust itself.
I must tell my story because the world is trying to deny it. No matter how hard it is, I just have to tell.
אני ילדה בת 6 ו3 חודשים אולי, ואבא שלי נותן לי צוואה. את תלכי, את תנצלי ותקימי את המשפחה שלנו מחדש.
נכון שלי ששרדתי את השואה, והגעתי לארץ הזאת, והקמתי משפחה לתפארת, ואני ממשיך את השורשים של המשפחה שלי.
Heading to Poland now for the annual International March of the Living Memorial ceremony. The ceremony's thematic focus this year is passing the torch of responsibility from the survivors to the next generations. And historically lighting a torch together this year are my next guests, third-generation Holocaust survivor and founder and president of the Neshlos Foundation, as well as Neshlos capital Eitan Neshlos, and His Excellency Ahmed Obeid Al-Mansouri, former member of the Federal National Council and founder of the Crossroads of Civilization Museum in Dubai. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for it.
All right, now I guess I'll start with a simple question. Is this your first time at the March of the Living? And again, I guess this question is for you, Eitan, because Ahmed, I know that this is your first time.
Yes, this is my first time in Krakow. It's the first time that I'm attending the March of the Living, and it's a remarkable privilege to be leading the march this year on behalf of the third generation. And even more remarkable that my foundation, together in partnership with March of the Living, as a symbol of reconciliation, invited a descendant of a Nazi whose family were part of Hitler's elite units. And she's coming with a message of forgiveness and a message of reconciliation. And I'm so much prouder that in addition to that, we've added the message of peace to reconciliation and extended a warm invitation to His Excellency Al-Mansouri.
All right, well, that actually does bring me over to you, Mr. Al-Mansouri. You know, what does it mean to you to be in Krakow as part of this delegation?
First of all, I'm very honorable. It's a noble mission. It's a noble mission and duty that my brother Eitan has taken. And I think to be part of it, you know, it's very important in so many aspects. The narratives of the Holocaust and is not consistent with the facts and the reality that you know, and Eitan know, and everyone knows. So it's very important, you know, to really reintroduce it the proper way, and in a way that can be appealing to other people so they understand it better.
Well, now, Eitan, you know, I want to come back to you for a moment. You are the founder and ambassador of the March of the Living UAE. And again, this is the first year that a delegation from the Emirates will participate in the march in Poland. What went into organizing this, and what can you tell us about the shifts that you've noticed between the Jews and the Arabs in the Gulf?
Well, my foundation, Nationalist Foundation, was founded in memory of my late grandmother, Zichronah Levacha, Tamara Zisserman, who was saved by righteous amongst the nations, a family called the Chodasevich family, a religious Christian family. And they took her in at the age of 11 when she had lost her entire family in one day, and hid her in a chimney where she lived amongst insects. When Nazis would knock on the door, and she would lose her voice for months at a time from the trauma of the occasion. And the Chodasevich family were murdered by their Nazis for their role in the resistance in the very same place that my family were murdered. This very much inspired me to relocate to Dubai and to build bridges between many countries, but in particularly between the Arab world and our people, because of the warm peace that has arisen from the Abrahamic Accords. Our great leaders of our respective countries have gifted us with this remarkable accords. It's incumbent upon us, it's incumbent upon our generation to adopt and to pursue the Abrahamic Accords. And in that pursuit, my mission in Dubai as ambassador of March of the Living for the region, for the Gulf region, is to identify young leaders and to invite them to join us in this mission. And I have to thank my brother to my left. He's sitting side by side with me. And what greater example could he provide as a symbol of coexistence and multiculturalism, and tell everyone that all together we're welcome, and all together we hope to inspire a generation of upstanders.
So that brings me, I think, to my last question. Your Excellency, you know, Israelis and Jews, I think, are ecstatic that Arabs in the Gulf are learning of the Holocaust. It's a sign, as you both have said here, of coexistence and of a warm peace that's characterizing the new Middle East, especially after the Abraham Accords. How can Israelis perhaps return the favor in a sense? Is there maybe a history from the Emirates that Israelis are unaware of?
Thank you for asking the question. I mean, I think it's not about returning the favor. Whatever we are doing is a duty. I think whatever we're making, if we contribute both in having a stable Middle East, if having a place where people, the future generations in all countries, all places in the Middle East, and not just Middle East and the North Africa also, because we are our region is much bigger. If we can really add value, work together to spearhead development, spearhead this initiative, to take the success of the Abrahamic Accord, which Eitan and I are just only very small symbol of it right now. But I think it's a catalyst project that can really spread this across all the Middle East. All what we want is the best for both sides. And I think when we have these events, whether social events, religious events, cultural events, we share this event, we share the happiness and the sorrow together. When we really recognize and acknowledge one another, and in a compassionate way, I think that's the real sign of the peace. Both of us, have provided for, in both countries, it's land of opportunities, not just for the citizens, also for people from outside. Both of our countries also, although people call us that we are very westernized, but we have our strong identity and we know how to cope, and and we have to benefit from everything and have to balance our life. So, and both of us think of the future, very forward thinking. Right. So it's such vision lack in many countries in the region there, and as you said, the changes happen all around the world. And always we need to make sure that we have to show a solid Middle East. When the Jews and the Arabs were working together, living together peacefully during the Golden Age, they were spreading the knowledge. They were really leading the culture and knowledge, everything. Since we have problem between both nations, what happens is that we are losing and others are losing. Middle East became like a kind of burden on other regions. So we need to face that to have a better Middle East, a greater and better Middle East.
All right, Your Excellency Eitan, thank you both so much for joining us, and thank you for your work.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you very much.
All right, now, among the greatest issues facing the aging population of Holocaust survivors worldwide is loneliness. And those who are perhaps most empathic to the issue, though, are Jewish youths in elementary schools around the world. And they're on a mission now to address this crisis.
Another day begins in the San Diego Jewish Academy, where children are learning Hebrew with the courses of Ulpan Ol.
Kids around the world learn Hebrew starting as early as the age of 4 using our unique Hebrew curriculum. They enjoy the process, and this is a marvelous opportunity for them to learn Hebrew in a natural way. These programs are written by us and our wonderful staff of teachers who not only speak and understand Hebrew, but actually live this language in their daily lives.
Shalom, Saba Vesafta, Ani Yonatan.
But recently, the school has started a new program in order to connect the children not only to the Hebrew language, but also to their roots.
One of the beautiful projects that we're involved in, among others, is that we have 17 Saba and Saftas that are Holocaust survivors that we are trying to help to ease their loneliness.
The second graders adopt, in fact, a Holocaust survivor, and by using the tools and skills they learned through the programs of Ulpan Ol, they send the survivors greeting cards in Hebrew, gifts, and even visit them once in a while. Besides, this program helps young students to learn about social awareness and strengthening their connection to the state of Israel, the Hebrew language. They are also learning about Tikkun Olam as a meaningful way of life, which is the most important part according to their teacher.
Most exciting things that we are doing in second grade is really focusing this year about Tikkun Olam and how can we make this world a better place.
In addition, the second graders are exposed throughout the program to the different problems in society, with some of the kids even asking to meet up with public figures to help fix those issues. For example, one of the problems the Holocaust survivors are suffering from these days is loneliness. Fortunately, the children helped to solve this issue, and the feedback is nothing less than touching.
Last week, we received those gorgeous videos back, heartwarming videos from our Sabas and Safta. The kids were on the verge of tears. They were so excited to see their Sabas and Saftas talking with them.
Thank you very much for the present. We are very touched. It's Saba Jacobson.
The program that connects the different generations helps keep the memory of the Holocaust and the Jewish flame, especially in these hard times when a new wave of anti-Semitism is on the rise.
Let's take a look at the weather forecast. Clear skies are expected overhead tonight with lows ranging from 12 to 14 degrees Celsius or 54 to 57 Fahrenheit. Then tomorrow, the majority of the country can expect clear skies again with top temperatures of 34 Celsius or 93 degrees Fahrenheit. And finally, Saturday, we see clear and sunny skies with temperatures remaining much the same across the country. All right, that is it for today's news. But for more of the latest updates from Israel, make sure to head to ILTV.tv or to an app store. Subscribe to our newsletter as well as to our streaming platform, ILTV+. It's available on all devices and on Roku and Amazon Fire TV. I'm Aaron Porras. Be well. Thank you so much for watching. Stay informed with the latest Israel news, live programs, culture, kosher cooking, and more on ILTV Plus. Subscribe on any device now and get a free month trial. Go to www.iltv.tv, add ILTV Plus on Roku, or download ILTV Plus from the Apple or Android app stores.